Hello, mighty companions. This is Earl Purdy, and I'm here to do Hardcore Course in Miracles. We're going to talk about the function of time. We're going to talk about the function of time in Hardcore Course in Miracles. We're going to do the function of time on page 245 in A Course in Miracles. So let's bring the energy in. Don't you want to know what the function of time is? We're going to talk about the function of time. So let's come in. Guess what? You and me were not that far apart. Yeah, we're beating the same heart. Welcome to A Course in Miracles, Hardcore Course in Miracles, here on Facebook Live with Earl Purdy. Welcome, mighty companions. Tell me, can you feel it? Put your arms around it and know that we are. Welcome to Course in Miracles, Hardcore Course in Miracles. Let's breathe and bring our energy in. Let's come together and understand that Christ was born inside of every man. He's waiting for us to choose Him as ourselves. When you choose Him, you know you choose me too. And everyone becomes a part of you. And then we'll know that love is who I am. Guess what? You and me were not that far apart. Yeah, we're beating the same heart. We've been together from the start. Oh yeah. Tell me, can you hear it? Can you hear it? Can you hear it? Tell me, can you feel it? Put your arms around it and know that we are one. This is Earl Purdy. Welcome, mighty companions. We are one. We are one. You don't have to believe the ideas. You don't have to accept the ideas. You don't have to even welcome the ideas. Some of the ideas you're going to find hard to believe. You don't have to believe the ideas. And some of the ideas you're going to find quite startling. You're not being asked to judge the ideas at all. You and me were not that far apart. Yeah, we're beating the same heart. We've been together from the start. Tell me, can you hear it? Tell me, can you feel it? Put your arms around it and know that we are one. Whoa, whoa, we are one. Yeah, yeah, we are one. That was Brother John Christmas at johnchristmas.com. If you want to get that music, and you can get it free. johnchristmas.com. Welcome to a hardcore Course in Miracles. For Course in Miracles students, it's primarily aimed at Course in Miracles students and Course in Miracles students who are studying the course. So it's a little bit more intense than just a regular Course in Miracles class. And we're going to be on the function of time. The function of time is on page 245, chapter 13. Page 245, the function of time. The function of time. So I'm here to deliver this and to helpfully hope you hear it. Our goal in the hardcore Course in Miracles gathering is for us to actually hear what the Course in Miracles is saying. To get clear, what is the thought system that the Course in Miracles is trying to get across? So we're going to start. It starts out by saying, and now the reason why you are afraid of this course should be apparent. The reason why you are afraid of the Course in Miracles, if you are afraid of the Course in Miracles, should be apparent. So what is it that should be apparent? What's the apparent reason that we are afraid of the Course in Miracles according to the Course? It says, for this is a course on love. The Course in Miracles is a course on love. The Course in Miracles is a course on love. The Course in Miracles is a course on love. The Course in Miracles is a course on love. Do you know why the Course in Miracles is a course on love? The Course in Miracles is a course on love because the Course in Miracles is about you. The Course in Miracles is about you. The Course in Miracles is about you because the Course in Miracles is a course on love. The Course in Miracles is about you. Do you know why the Course in Miracles is about you? The Course in Miracles is about you because the Course in Miracles is a course on love. Welcome to the live broadcast. I want to welcome all my mighty companions that are online. Don't forget that being live, you can communicate with each other about what we're talking about, and you can also communicate with me, and I will also interact with you from time to time, and I always read all the comments. So the Course in Miracles starts out by saying on page 245, the function of time, that it should be obvious to us why there's a part of us that's afraid of a Course in Miracles. It's a course on love. And if the Course in Miracles says if it's a course on love, that means it's a course on you. A course on love is a course on you. Do you know that you've been told that your function in this world is healing? Your function in this world is healing. Your function in this world is healing. Your function in this world is healing. Do you know that the Course in Miracles says that healing is the undoing of fear? Healing is the undoing of fear. So you could say your function in this world is the undoing of fear. Your function in this world is to undo fear. Do you know that you're in this world to undo fear? Your function in this world is to undo fear. You're in this world just to undo fear. Your function in this world is healing. 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 So the reason why you are in this world is to heal, and to heal is to undo fear. To heal is to undo fear. I want to get this so that I can see your comments. To heal is to undo fear. To heal is to undo fear. To heal is to undo fear. That's why you're in this world. That's why you're in this world. You're in this world to heal. You're in this world to undo fear. And your function in heaven is creating. And the Course teaches that heaven is reality. Heaven is love. Heaven is our home. Our reality is heaven. Your function in heaven is creating. So really your function in reality is to be a creator. You were created to create, but here in the world, your function is healing. So in reality, you are a creator. Here, your function is to heal. Your function is to be a healer. And your function is healing. That means that you're feeling, you are here, that means you are here to undo fear. You're here to undo fear. You're here to undo fear. You're here to undo fear. The ego teaches that your function on earth is destruction. The fearful part of the mind teaches that your function on earth is destruction. Your ego is always teaching that your function here on earth is destruction. Your ego, which the Course defines as wrong-mindedness. Wrong-mindedness teaches you that your function here is to be destructive. Your wrong-mindedness, your ego teaches you that you have no function at all in heaven, that you have no function at all in love, that you have no function at all in reality. Don't forget that the Course in Miracles defines heaven as reality, that our reality, our home is heaven. And the ego, which is the wrong mind, the part of our mind that doesn't know the truth, the Course says it teaches us that our function on earth is destruction and tells us that we don't really have a function in reality. And we do have a function in reality. We do have a function in reality. You've been told that your function in this world is healing and your function in heaven is creating. Do you know that that means your function in this world is undoing and your function in reality is creating? Your ego teaches you that your function on earth is destruction. When you listen to the part of your mind that's the ego, that's not telling you the truth, it teaches you that your function on earth is destruction. There's a part of you that doesn't know the truth called the ego. And it teaches you that you have no function in heaven. Heaven is love. Heaven is reality. And so the ego, there's a part of your mind called the ego that would destroy you here. There's a part of you that the Course says would try to destroy you here and bury you here. It says, where do you think death comes from? If it doesn't come from God, then there must be a part of the person's mind that believes in death. There must be part of a person's mind that makes death. So the Course says your ego is the part of you that doesn't love you, that thinks you deserve to die. That's why people die. And the Course says that part of you that thinks that you deserve to die, it would destroy you here, and it would bury you here, leaving you no inheritance except the dust out of which it thinks you were made. There's a part of us, the part of us that is separate from God, thinks it's separate from God. The part of us that thinks that we're guilty. The part of us that thinks that we don't deserve love. The Course just told us that there's a part of your mind that thinks that you deserve to die. There's a part of your mind that thinks that your only inheritance should be the dust out of which it thinks you were made. There's a part of you that, as long as it's reasonably satisfied with you, as its reasoning goes, there's a part of you that thinks it's separate from God. That part of you that thinks it's separate from God. The part of you that thinks you're separate from God. The Course says as long as that part of you is reasonably satisfied with you, as its reasoning goes, then that part of you is going to offer you oblivion. But there's a part of you that doesn't know that you are nothing but total love. That part of you that may think that you are guilty, or that part of you that may think that you are not lovable. The Course, that's called the ego. And the Course says when the ego becomes overtly savage, when the part of a person that doesn't really love them becomes overtly savage, it offers them hell. It offers them hell. Just a moment. Take a breath. There's a part of you, as its reasoning goes, it will offer you hell because it doesn't think that you deserve love. That part of you that doesn't think that you deserve love, I want to get it up so that I can monitor you while I'm on here. So just breathe for a minute while I bring you up. Breathe for a minute. You are love. The Course is about you, and you are love. The Course is about you, and you are love. The Course is about you, and you are love. The Course is about you, and you are love. The ego is trying its best to interfere with what we're doing. And so I'm trying to get Facebook up. You are innocent. 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 There's a part of you that it wants to tell you there's a reason why a part of you is afraid, that there's a part of you that is afraid of love. There's a part of you that is afraid of love. And that part of you that is afraid of love, it's going to convince you that you don't deserve love. So there's a part of us that's trying to convince us that we don't deserve love. That part of us that would try to convince us that we don't deserve love. That part of us that's trying to convince us that we don't deserve love. It is not your true self. It's not your true self. So let's look at paragraph 2. Paragraph 2. Facebook I want to monitor you so I would be able to respond to you, but it's weird. All of a sudden, Facebook just disappeared. So take a breath. Neither oblivion nor hell is as unacceptable to you as heaven. Neither oblivion nor hell is as unacceptable to you as heaven. What does that mean? The Course is saying that there's a part of us that would rather go through hell and oblivion sometimes than to accept heaven, which is love, which is the truth, which is reality. there's a part of us that completely resists the truth, heaven, love, and reality. Do you know that your definition of heaven is hell and oblivion? And that the real heaven is the greatest threat you think you could experience. Now remember, the Course is only talking about love or fear. So let's look back at paragraph 2 again. It says, yet neither oblivion nor hell. So we're only talking about love or fear. So, yet neither oblivion nor hell is as unacceptable unacceptable to us as heaven. And so fear is more acceptable to us than real love. Your definition of love is fear and oblivion. And the real love, which is heaven, is the greatest threat that you think you could experience. So don't forget, when you're reading the Course in Miracles, just remember, even if it's using Christian terminology, that the only thing that it's really describing is love or fear. So you can always go back. You can always go back and you can just substitute love or fear and it will make sense to you. Do you know that hell and oblivion are ideas that you made up? Do you know that hell is just an idea that we made up? Hell is just an idea that we made up. The Course defines hell as fear. So fear and oblivion are ideas you made up. Fear and oblivion are ideas that you made up. Hell is an idea that we made up. According to the Course, hell is an idea that we made up. Hell is an idea that we made up. I'm still trying to get you up on Facebook so that I can see your comments. Hell is an idea. Hell is an idea that we made up. Hell is an idea that we made up. So there is no such thing as hell. There is no such thing as hell. There is no such thing as hell. Tell yourself, there is no such thing as hell. There is no such thing as hell. There is no such thing as hell. Remind yourself, there is no such thing as hell. There is no such thing as hell. Hell is just an idea that we made up. Hell is an idea we made up. Hell is an idea that we made up. Hell is an idea that we made up. There is no such thing as hell. It is just an idea that we made up. And the Course says hell is an idea that we made up and that we are bent on demonstrating the reality of hell and oblivion to establish our reality. If the reality of hell and oblivion is questioned, you believe that your reality is questioned. What does that mean? Well, you believe that attack is your reality. We believe that in our reality we can be hurt. We believe that in our reality we can be hurt. We believe that in our reality we can be attacked. And so the Way of Mastery says, the Way of Mastery, the Course in Miracles says, we believe that we can be attacked. We believe that attack is our reality. And it says, and that your destruction then becomes the final proof that you are correct. Your destruction becomes your final proof that you are correct. So we believe, according to the Course in Miracles, if you believe you can be hurt, if you believe your reality is something that could be destructive, then actually your destruction becomes the final proof that you were right. If I believe that I can be hurt, then me being hurt is the final proof that I'm right. So let's go back over that paragraph again, because I was trying to, the ego is like going berserk right now as far as trying to interfere with this live broadcast. Everything possible is coming up right now, and it's all a call for love, and I know it's a call for love. So I'll say it again. Yet neither oblivion nor hell is as unacceptable to us as love. When you don't really know you are loved, and when you don't really love yourself, the Course in Miracles is saying fear becomes more acceptable to you than love. Then it says your definition of heaven is hell and oblivion. So that's the same as saying your definition of love is fear and oblivion. And the real love, which is the real heaven, is the greatest threat you think you could experience. So the Course in Miracles is saying to a person who believes in fear, a person who doesn't know that they are loved, that's a person that's actually threatened by real love. That people who think they're separate, when you think you are guilty, when you think you are separate, then and unworthy, then the real heaven, which is the truth, which is love, the Course says it's the greatest threat you think you could experience. So if I'm afraid, there's nothing if I'm a fearful mind, if I think I'm separate from God, if I feel like I'm guilty, then the greatest threat that I can experience would be real love. So people who believe in fear are afraid of love. People who have forgotten that they are one with God, they are afraid of love. Then the next part of it says, for hell and oblivion are ideas you made up. So that, what is it telling us next? That love is what you are, but hell, which is fear, is an idea you made up. Because you are bent on demonstrating that fear is real to establish your reality as a fearful person. So if a person has a fearful mind, then they need fear to be real, because it establishes their identity as a fearful person as real. If I believe I'm a fearful person, then I'm going to need fear to validate that I'm a fearful person. If I'm a fearful person, I'm going to be afraid of love. And it says, if fear's reality is questioned, you will believe that your reality is questioned. If I believe that I am a fearful mind, and someone tells me that fear isn't real, then if the reality of fear is questioned, the Course in Miracles says you would then believe that your reality is questioned. Why? He says, because you believe that attack is your reality. There's a part of us that believes that attack is a part of our reality. And so your own destruction, your own being attacked, becomes the final proof that you were right. So basically, a person who doesn't know that they are loved, a person that doesn't realize that they are loved, a person who thinks they're guilty and afraid, that's a person that's going to be afraid of love, and they are going to do everything possible to prove that fear and guilt and attack is real, and that love is not real. So if you get in a relationship with someone who does not love themselves, the more love you give them, the more threatening that's going to be to them, because they believe in fear and they think that fear is real, and they think that attack is real, and they think that hurt is real, And so they hurt themselves and attack themselves, and they reject love so that they can prove that they are right. That's intense. Then the Course in Miracles says, under the circumstances, wouldn't it not be more desirable to have been wrong? Wouldn't it be more desirable to be wrong about love being threatening? Wouldn't it be more desirable to be wrong about you not being loving? Even apart from the fact that you were wrong. What is it that you are wrong about? What you want to do is, the first thing, rather than try to, right now, the purpose of the Hardcore Course in Miracles is to hear together what the Course is saying. It's not really about trying to explain right now how to apply it. Yes, it is a cry for help. But what you want to do right now, mighty companions, is you want to hear what the Course is trying to tell us. It's trying to tell us right now that you need to be glad that you are wrong. Wrong about what? Thinking that your reality is attack and fear and destruction. It's saying to you right now, wouldn't it be more desirable that love not be threatening and that hell and fear not be real? Remember, the purpose of the Hardcore Course in Miracles is to focus on what the Course is saying, more so than trying to figure out how you're going to apply it when you haven't heard it yet. So that's why I encourage the questions to be more about, what is this paragraph saying? What is the Course saying? It's saying to us that there's a part of us that accepts love quicker than there's a part of us that will accept fear quicker than it will accept love. It's trying to tell us that our definition of love is fear, and that love is the greatest threat to a part of us that we think we could experience. It's trying to tell us that hell and fear are ideas that we made up, and that there's a part of us that's trying its best to demonstrate that it's real. The Course in Miracles is telling us that if the reality of fear and attack and pain is questioned, that we believe that our reality is questioned, because we believe that our reality contains hell, fear, and attack. Then what else did it tell us? It told us that we believe that attack is our reality, and that there's a part of us that believes that our own death and our own destruction is the final proof that we are right about how dangerous and destructive this reality that we are in is. See, the key to the Course in Miracles is to get in touch with what is the thought system that it's trying to make us aware of. It's right now, in this section, it's saying, under the circumstances, wouldn't it be more desirable that we were wrong about thinking that fear and attack is our reality? Even apart from the fact that you were wrong, wouldn't it be more desirable to be wrong? While it could perhaps be argued that death suggests there was life, the fact that you died suggests you did live, nobody would claim that death proves there is life. Even if you think you had a past life that death might indicate, could that only have been futile if it must come to death and needs this to prove that it is at all? You question heaven, you question the truth, you question the Course, but you don't question what? You don't question that this reality can be destructive and fearful. You don't question that love could be a threat sometimes, that a part of us can be afraid of love, or that there's a part of us that thinks it could be hurt by love. He says, you question love, you question heaven, but you don't question this. Yet you could heal. You could be healed if you did question. Question what? Question, do you really die? Do you really deserve to die? Question whether or not love is really what's threatening. Question the idea that your reality could be a reality that contains attack and fear and harm. Question what you've been taught by the world. The Course says you could heal and be healed if you questioned it. If we question what the world teaches us, if we question what our ego teaches us about fear and death and separation, if we question it, we could heal. If we questioned it, we could be healed. Take a breath. Kathy says, what is it I really, really want? What have I been desiring? Am I desiring hell or love? Diana says, this is so deep. We created hell to make our fear seem more legit. That's right. Kim says, I hope I'm wrong. I need another way to look at things. You don't want to be right when you are feeling fear and attack. And Diana says, I could be healed if I question, do I really die? Could my reality contain attack? In other words, don't accept what we've been taught about fear being real and love being the thing that's not real. Question the idea that you are a body that dies. Question the thought that you are separate from God. The Course says you could heal and be healed if you did question it. And even though you don't know heaven, even though you don't know love, real love, even though you don't know the truth, might it be more desirable than death? He says, even though we don't know heaven, even though we don't know where we really came from, is it possible that it might be more desirable than dying? Is it possible that the truth might be more desirable to us than dying? Some people would rather die than accept the truth. Some people would rather die than accept love. The Course says you have been as selective in your questioning as in your perception. An open mind is more honest than this. So what does it mean that an open mind is more honest than this? An open mind would not be so selective in its questioning. An open mind would not be so selective in its perception. An open mind would admit that it does not know. The Course in Miracles says open-mindedness is recognizing that you don't know, and so you're willing to be taught. So an open-minded person is not a person who thinks they know. An open-minded person is a person who is willing to admit that they don't know. An honest mind, an open mind, is a mind that says, I don't know everything. I don't know everything. I have an open mind. I realize I don't know everything. I have an open mind because I realize I don't know everything. I'm not going to be selective in my questioning so that my questions only reflect what I already think and believe. I'm not going to be so selective in my perception that I'm not willing to look at the big picture, that I'm not willing to look at everything. Paragraph 4. The ego has a strange notion of time. Now, another term for the ego is the guilty mind, the guilty mind, the fearful mind, the angry mind, the mind that thinks it's separate from God, the part of the mind that thinks it's angry, the part of the mind that thinks it's guilty, the part of the mind that thinks it's separate from God, the part of the mind that thinks it's separate from God, the part of the mind that thinks it's separate from God, the part of the mind that thinks it's separate from God, the part of the mind that thinks it's separate from God, the part of the mind that thinks it's separate from God, the part of the mind that thinks it's separate from God, The part of the mind that thinks it's separate from God has a strange notion of time. The part of the mind that thinks it's separate from God has a strange notion of time. Take a breath. The part of the mind that thinks it's separate from God has a strange notion of time. The part of the mind that thinks it's separate from God has a strange notion of time. And it is with this strange notion of time that your questioning might well begin. Okay, so we're going to start out with recognizing that our ego, the part of us that doesn't know who we are, the part of us that doesn't know who we are, has a strange notion of time. The part of us that doesn't know who we are has a strange notion of time. Our ego has a strange notion of time. So the ego, which is the wrong-mindedness, the ego, the part of us that thinks it's separate, the ego, the part of us that thinks we are guilty, the ego invests heavily in the past. So when you're in your ego, when a person is in their ego, when a person is in their fear-based mind, they think about the past a lot. So whenever a person is in their ego, whenever you're in your ego, you're thinking about the past a lot. And the ego part of you believes that the past is the only aspect of time that means anything. So when a person is in their ego, a guilty mind believes that the past is the only part of time that means anything. So a person that's into the guilty part of themselves, all they think about is the past, what happened in the past, what it believes happened in the past. So the ego invests heavily in the past. And in the end, the ego believes that the past, what's gone, is the only aspect of time that means anything. So this is one of the ways you will know when your ego is talking to you. All of us know what the past is. The past is what's gone. The past is what is over. Remember, the Course in Miracles is very simple, but the ego is going to try to trick you by making things seem complicated, by making you think that you don't know the meaning of things that you know the meaning of. Each and every one of us knows what the past means, and that the past means gone. The past is something that is over. The past is anything that is not existing right now. So the Course says the ego invests heavily in what's gone. And in the end, the ego believes that the past is the only aspect of time that means anything. Remember that your ego, the part of you that thinks you're separate from love, the part of you that thinks you're separate from God, the part of you that feels guilt, the part of the mind that feels guilt. It says the part of the mind that feels fear, the part of the mind that thinks it's separate. Remember, its emphasis on guilt enables it to ensure its continuity. So what does that mean? It means that your ego tries to continue itself by making you think about guilt, things that you feel guilty about. So the purpose of feeling guilty is to keep the ego going. Feeling guilty keeps the ego going. Remember that the ego's emphasis on guilt enables the ego to ensure its continuity. Are you reading along with me? Because you will see that everything that I'm saying is coming directly from the book on page 245. Okay, I'm going to go back. The ego is the part of your mind that feels fear. The purpose of the Course is to get rid of all fear and all guilt. So how do we keep fear and guilt going? The Course in Miracles says the ego invests heavily in the past, and in the end, believes that the past is the only aspect of time that is meaningful. So your ego always gets you to think about the past, what's gone, what's over, And your ego is the part of you that believes that the past is the only thing that really means anything. What happened to you in the past? What you did to somebody in the past? What somebody did to you in the past? Whenever you're doing that and you're not remembering only the loving thoughts, the Course in Miracles says it's okay to remember only the loving thoughts. But when you're thinking about anything in the past that is not a loving thought, remember your ego has an emphasis that it wants to put on guilt, because guilt is what enables the ego to ensure its continuity. That's the point that the Course is trying to make right now. If you want to get rid of your fear, you have to get rid of your guilt. If you want to let go of fear, you have to let go of guilt. And the ego, which is the fearful part of you, uses guilt to keep itself going. It uses guilt to ensure its continuity. So how does the ego ensure its continuity? By focusing on guilt. It says by making the future like the past and thus avoiding the present. So in order to keep the ego going, in order to keep fear going, you have to make your present, you have to try to make your future like your past. So if I have a past full of fear, I'm going to try to make sure that I have a future full of fear. My ego is saying if I have a past full of guilt, then it's going to also try to create a future full of guilt. Because my ego, which is my fear, the ego, the part of you that thinks you're separate from God, the part of you that thinks you're separate from love, it can only exist if it keeps guilt going in your mind, keeping guilt going in your life. That's why I tell people all the time, we have to stop using our special relationships for guilt. People use their special relationships too much for guilt. They try to make their partners feel guilty, and their partners try to make them feel guilty. The ego mind tries to manipulate everybody through guilt. I'm going to make you guilty. I'm going to make you feel guilty. And if I make you feel guilty, then you're going to do what I want you to do. If I make you feel guilty enough, you're going to do what I want you to do. If I get angry enough at you, you're going to do what I want you to do. The ego mind uses guilt to keep itself going, because your ego is trying to make your future just like your past. The Course says the ego can only keep itself going by avoiding the present. There it is right there in the paragraph. Remember that the ego's emphasis on guilt enables the ego to ensure its continuity by making the future like the past and thus avoiding the present. So the Course in Miracles is saying that there's a part of my mind that is always trying to keep me out of the now. There's a part of my mind that's always trying to make me feel guilty. That part of my mind that's trying to make me feel guilty makes me think about things in the past that could make me feel angry and guilty. Because my ego, the part of me that feels afraid and guilty, that part of the mind can only exist if I can make my future guilty, like my ego is trying to tell me that my past is. And what is my ego? My ego is the part of me that thinks it's separate from love, that thinks it's separate from God. My ego is the part of me that's afraid of love, that's afraid of union, that's afraid of joining. The Course is saying there are two parts to our mind. One part of our mind thinks it's separate. One part of our mind thinks it's guilty. One part of our mind thinks it's a body. One part of our mind believes that it's separate from love and that it can be hurt and that it can be attacked and that it can die. And then he says there's another part of our mind that knows that we are eternal, that knows that we are innocent, that knows that we are totally loving. And that is our real self. And so the Course is saying that part of you, that part of me that thinks it is not lovable, that part of me that doesn't have self-love, that part of me that is insecure, that part of me that thinks it's a body, then that part of me is going to try to keep itself going by putting an emphasis on guilt. It's going to try to make me believe that my future is going to be as unhappy or dangerous or fearful or guilt-ridden as my past was. Because the main thing that the ego part of the mind is trying to do, the main thing the fearful part of the mind is trying to do, is to avoid the present, avoid the right now. Why? Because right here, right now, you're innocent. Right here, right now, you're not creating any kind of guilt. You certainly are not creating guilt if you are studying the truth. You certainly are not creating the gift if you are focusing on guilt, if you're focusing on your spiritual path. So the Course in Miracles is telling us that the ego wants us to think about the future or the past so that we can avoid the love that is right here, the real self that is right here. By the notion of paying for the past in the future, the past becomes the determiner of the future. So what makes your past determine your future? What makes your past determine your future is you believing that I need to pay for things that I have done in the past in the future. That there's something I've done in the past that I'm going to be punished for in the future. That there's something I've done in the past that I'm going to have to pay for in the future. That's how your ego keeps the guilt and the fear going, by making a person think that the things that they have done in the past that they felt guilty about, they are going to be punished for that in the future. I believe I did something bad in my past, and I'm going to be punished for that in the future. That idea is the idea that keeps your guilt and fear going. That is the idea that keeps the ego going. The idea that keeps the ego going is that I'm guilty and bad and I did something in the past and I'm going to pay for that in the future. And so the Course says the past becomes the determiner of the future. If you let your past become the determiner of what's going to happen to you in the future, that makes your past and your future, which we both believe is going to be either some sort of payback for what I did in the past. Let me show you, okay? Let's watch my hands. This is the past. I think I did something to feel guilty about in the past. My ego is trying to make me feel guilty to keep itself going. And then it tells me I'm going to pay for the thing that I've done in the past in the future. So then I'm letting my past determine my future. And so that makes my past and my future continuous in guilt. And it's not letting me focus on the present in between. And so the Course in Miracles is saying the ego, the part of a person that believes they're guilty, the part of a person that believes they are afraid, the part of a person that believes that they are separate from God, the Course says that part of a person regards the present only as a brief transition to the future. I think this now moment is just a brief transition to the next moment. I think what I'm experiencing right now is just a brief transition to the next moment in the future. I think what I'm experiencing right now with you is just a brief moment, a brief transition to the future. And so it says the ego regards the present only as a brief transition to the future, in which the ego brings the past to the future. So your ego tries to bring your past to your future. It tries to bring what you've gone through in the past. It tries to project it in the future. And how do you bring the past to the future? You bring the past to the future by interpreting your present in past terms. If you take this moment and you interpret everything that's happening to you right now the way you used to look at things in the past, if you are not using the new Course in Miracles interpretations, if you're not using the stuff that you're learning in the Course in Miracles, if you're not using that right now, then you are still interpreting what's going to happen to you next based on what you learned in the past. And you'll just experience what you've gone through in the past again. If you keep looking at things the way you learned to look at it in the past, right now, right now. No matter what you learned in the past, no matter what you experienced in the past, no matter what you went through in the past, if you are using this now moment to look at your life the way that you used to look at your life before you got into your spiritual path, if you're not using the Course in Miracles interpretations, if you said the Course in Miracles is your spiritual path, if you're not using what the Course is teaching you right now, then you will just create in the future what you've been going through in the past. A lot of people wonder, well, why am I repeating my patterns over and over again? Well, you're repeating your patterns over and over again because you're using right now to think the way that you were taught to think through your ego in the past. It's just that simple. And I'll say it again. Why do I experience the same pattern in my relationships that I used to experience in the past? Because I'm using right now to look at relationships exactly the way that I learned to look at relationships in the past. Whenever you are experiencing something in your future, whenever you experience something in the future, and it's something that you went through in the past, it's because you used right now to look at things the way you always looked at things. You're using it, and that's right, Alita. You said the cycle needs to be broken. And that is exactly what this section is telling us. It's telling us the right way to use time. That's why I was saying, let's really focus in on what it is telling us. And it's telling us that the ego, the part of the mind that believes that you're separate, the part of the mind that believes in fear, it just looks at the present as a brief transition to the future. And you bring your past to the future by interpreting your present in past terms. That's how you recreate your pattern. You take right now and you keep looking at right now the way you have in the past. And what is the way that we're looking at things right now that creates our pattern? The Course would say it is seeing yourself as a victim. If I see myself as a victim, if I see myself as guilty, if I see myself as guilty right now, then I'm projecting the guilt into the future. If I see myself as separate from God right now, then I project that in the future. Whenever I use right now to look at things the way I used to look at things, then I am projecting it into my future and I experience it again. And the way out of it is to use right now to interpret your experience the way the Course in Miracles is teaching you to interpret your experience. And all through the Course in Miracles is giving you new interpretations to use on everything that happens in your life right now. The Course in Miracles is giving you new meanings and new interpretations to use right now, other than the ones that you learned from your ego in the world. That's why the study of the Course in Miracles as your spiritual path, for those of you who see the Course in Miracles as your spiritual path, listen to me. I've been seeing the Course in Miracles as my spiritual path for almost 40 years. And so I've talked to people many, many years. And what is the challenge is, especially at the beginning when you're studying the Course in Miracles, is you will read what it's saying, but you won't remember what it's saying that you read. And then you will make up your own meanings about what it means. And those meanings are not the correct perception whenever it doesn't bring you more peace. So the Course is telling us right now, let me tell you, you got an ego. I know you're saying you want to get rid of your ego. I know you're saying you want to get rid of your fear, that you want to get rid of your separation. So let me tell you how your ego operates. The first thing I want to tell you about your ego is that your ego really, really focuses in on the past. It's the part of your mind that thinks the past and what happened to you in your childhood and your past was the only things that were truly meaningful. And your ego tries to keep itself going. Your fear tries to keep itself going through emphasizing your guilt. So your ego is the part of you that tries to make you feel guilty because it's trying to make your future just like your past. If you thought you had a guilty past or something that you felt guilty about or angry about or fearful about from the past, then you got to understand that the ego is the part of your mind that's trying to project that same type of feeling, that same type of experience into your future, because that is what keeps your ego fear going. Guilt keeps fear going. Guilt keeps the separation going. Guilt keeps us thinking we're separate from our innocence. Guilt keeps us thinking that we're separate from God. Guilt keeps us separate from our abundance. Fear, anger, guilt, they're all the same thing. From a Course in Miracles perspective, we only have two feelings, love or fear. We call them many, many things. We call love and fear many, many things. But the truth is, you're only feeling some form of love or some expression of love and some expression of fear. And the Course in Miracles is saying to us, there is a part of you that flat don't like you. There is a part of you that thinks you're not enough. There's a part of you that gets afraid. There's a part of you that feels insecure. There's a part of you that thinks it's a victim. How do we know that's true? He says, you know it's true because you see it in your world. And everything that you see in your world, the Course says, is in your mind. So everything that you're looking at is in your mind. So if you see fear anywhere, if you see guilt anywhere, if you see anger and attack anywhere, it's a reflection of the idea of fear and guilt and anger and attack in your mind. And so the Course in Miracles says that is called the ego. So that part of a person, the ego, wants to keep itself going. The part of me that thinks it is separate wants to maintain the separation. So the Course says the way that my ego works is that my ego makes me think about the past all the time. What my mama did to me, what happened in my childhood, what happened in my last relationship, what happened in the past. I'm always thinking about what happened in the past. I'm always focusing in on what happened in the past. And the Course in Miracles is saying that is what your ego does in order to keep itself going. Then it takes right now, and what it makes you do is right now, instead of thinking about the love of God, instead of thinking about your innocence, instead of thinking about how you are connected with God, instead of thinking about how free you are, the Course says what we do is we use the right now to think about what happened in the past that we feel upset or guilty about. He says, and when you use right now to remember what you feel guilty about from the past, he says, then what you do is you project it into your future, and then you experience the guilt and the pain again. That is what the Course is saying is happening. It's not complicated. It's just very different. Then we are told by the notion of paying for the past, in the future, like if a person has the idea that they're going to pay for the past in the future, then that makes your past determine your future. If I think that I'm going to pay for my past in my future, that's making my past determine my future. Say that to yourself. If I think I've got to pay for something I've done in the past, if I think I've got to pay for that in the future, then my past becomes the determiner of my future. You don't want what happened to you in the past to determine your future unless you're remembering only the loving thoughts. I'm going to keep saying it. The Course says only the loving thoughts were real. The only thing from your past that is real is all the loving thoughts, all the happy thoughts, all the happy experiences, all the loving experiences. Everything else has to be forgotten. Everything else must be forgotten. Because you don't want to take the painful experiences and you don't want to project those painful experiences into your future. And if you're using right now to think about the painful experiences of your past, if you're using right now to think of what happened to you in the past, then you are letting your past determine your future. Stop letting unhappy things from your past determine what you're going to happen. Stop letting unhappy things that happened in the past determine what you're going to happen, what's going to happen to you in the future. Remember only the loving thoughts. I'm quoting the Course in Miracles when I say these things. I'm not giving you Earl's opinion. I'm trying to allow us to hear what it is that the Course is saying so that we can practically, in a practical way, apply it in our life. Then the Course says, for the ego regards the present only as a brief transition to the future, in which your ego brings the past to the future. How? By interpreting the present in past terms, you bring your past to your future by interpreting and judging what's happening to you in your life right now in terms of what happened in the past. So paragraph 5, chapter 13, section 4, paragraph 5. We're in the section called the function of time. And paragraph 5 is on page 246 in the Foundation for Inner Peace version of A Course in Miracles. Take a breath. So I'm going to do paragraph 4 one more time. Listen to me. The fearful part of your mind has a strange notion of time. And it's with this notion of time that your questioning might begin. Your ego invests heavily in the past. The ego invests heavily in the past. Because in the end, the ego believes that the past is the only aspect of time that is meaningful. Remember that your ego places an emphasis on guilt. And your ego places an emphasis on guilt because that will ensure the continuance of your ego and your fear. Your ego tries to make your future like your past. And if you had any kind of fear or guilt in the past or unhappiness in the past, your ego tries to make your future the same way. Your ego is always trying to avoid the present. The fearful part of the mind is always trying to avoid the present. Another thing that keeps the ego going is you having the notion of paying for the past and the future. You have to let go of the idea that you got to pay for what you did in the past and the future. Because if you believe that you've got to pay for what you've done in the past in the future, then that makes your past a determiner of your future. It makes your past and your future just alike, and it leaves out the present moment. The ego is the part of the mind that believes in separation and guilt and fear. And that part of the mind just sees the now moment as a brief transition between the past and the future. And so your ego recreates any pain that you've gone through and guilt that you've gone through in the past. The way that you project guilt and pain from the past into the future is by interpreting your present in past terms. Stop 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 interpreting your present life in terms of the way you've learned to look at things in the past. Use the new interpretations that the Course in Miracles is giving you if you want to have a different future. Do you know that now doesn't have any meaning to the ego? To the ego, to the part of the mind that thinks it's, to the part of your mind that thinks it's separate. When you're in your ego, you can tell when you're in your ego because the present merely reminds the ego of past hurts. So when you're in your ego, you're thinking about how you were hurt in the past. When you're in your ego, you're thinking about all the hurts that you've gone through in the past. And the ego reacts to the present as if it were the past. So when a person is in their ego, they keep acting like whatever happened to them in the past is still happening now. Stop acting like what happened to you in your past relationship is still happening now. Stop acting like what happened to you in your childhood is still happening now. Stop acting like what happened to you this morning is still happening now. That's always the ego. Whenever you're thinking about hurts and pains from the past, that's your ego. And when you're in your ego, you keep reacting to the present as if it's the past. And the part of a person that believes that they don't deserve love, which is the ego is the part of you that can't tolerate release from the past. The ego is the part of you that still hangs on to the past and doesn't want to let the past go. As the Course says, the ego cannot tolerate release from the past. So how can you tell when you're in your ego? I'm in my ego when I'm thinking about ways that I was hurt in the past. I'm in my ego when I react as if my right now is my past. And you know your right now is not your past. You know that the people and situations and circumstances of your life right now are not like your past. So you're always in your ego when you react to your present moment as if it were the past. Do you know that the ego cannot tolerate release from the past? And although the past is over, even though your past is over, your ego tries to preserve the image of the past. Your ego is the part of you that's always trying to keep you thinking that things haven't changed and they're the same way they used to be in the past. The ego, which is the fearful part of the mind, tries to preserve its image by responding as if it were present. So what does that mean? Just what it says. The ego keeps trying to keep itself going. The fear tries to keep itself going. The ego tries to preserve its image by responding as if the past were still happening right now. So the message from that sentence is, stop acting like the past is still happening. Only the loving thoughts and loving things from your past were real. The rest needs to be forgotten. Your ego, the part of you that thinks that you don't deserve love, it dictates your reactions to those you meet in the present from a past reference point. Let's say I meet a new friend. Let's say I meet a new female, and I use all of my past experiences with other females to create my reaction to this person. So the ego always tells you to look at everything that's happening right now from a past reference point. And if you look at somebody from a past reference point, then you are obscuring and blocking seeing that person's present reality. If I look at you and think about you in terms of the way you were yesterday, 2 weeks ago, then I might be missing how you're being in the present. And in the present, you might be being more loving, more conscious, more beautiful. But if I'm thinking about what you did last week, a week ago, then my ego is going to always tell me, look at this person based on your past reference point. So in effect, if you follow your ego's dictates, if you listen to your ego, if you listen to the part of you that wants you to feel guilty, you're going to react to that brother as though that brother were someone else. And if you react to a person as if they're your past, if I'm a man and I come into your life and you react to me as if I was the other men who have been in your reality in the past, then you will miss what I have to offer you right now. I could be a man that's totally different and much more loving, much more sane than any man you've ever met. But you might not let yourself have a relationship with me because you're thinking of me in terms of the man that you see as mistreating you in the past. I'm just using this as an example. The Course is telling us you can't see who a person is right now if you're thinking of them in terms of what you went through with someone else in the past. And if you're looking at me as if I'm some man from your past, for instance, then it says this will surely prevent you from recognizing him as he is. What does that mean? If you react to me as if I was someone that you've dealt with in the past, and if you're using your past experiences with other men before me, for example, then it's going to prevent you from recognizing me for who I am right now. And if you look at me in terms of what you went through in the past, the Course says, and you will receive messages from him out of your own past. Because by making your past real in the present, by using all of your painful experiences from the past as a way to interpret your present and anybody that's coming into your present, then you're making that past real in the present. And that means you are forbidding yourself to let your past go. You're not going to have a different experience of people if you keep on looking at people in terms of the experiences that you went through with people in the past. If you're looking at a person in terms of what you went through with somebody else in the past, if you're looking at any situation or circumstance and you're reacting to it based on what you experienced in the past that was unpleasant or guilty or painful, then you are forbidding yourself to let it go. You are recreating that pattern in that past right now. So that's why the Course in Miracles tells us over and over again, say that your brother is as God created him. Say a person is innocent. It says that this is a Course in Miracles because it's a course on love, which is a course about us. So if I'm going to have a different experience of people in my present, I cannot look at people based on the painful experiences that I gave myself through people in the past. The Course in Miracles says your ego can only survive if it can keep guilt and fear going. So your ego wants you to look at everything that's happening right now through the lens of any kind of pain or hurt or guilt that you went through in the past. Your ego is trying to recreate your past in your future because that keeps the ego going. So if you react to everybody that you meet right now from a past reference point, then you're hiding who they really are, the loving being that they can really be for you right now. When you are thinking of somebody in terms of somebody else if you're thinking of someone new in terms of what you went through through somebody in the past, you're reacting to that person as if that person was someone else, somebody that you dealt with in the past. And if you deal with people in situations based on what you went through in similar situations in the past, then it will prevent you from recognizing that person or that situation for what they really are and the gifts that they can give you right now. And if you look for the past in a person, then you are going to receive messages out of your own past. Because if you make your past real in the present, that means you're forbidding to let your past go. If you keep on looking at everything based on the way you used to look at things in the past, especially anything from the past that makes you feel guilty, then that means you are forbidding yourself to let it go. And if you forbid yourself to let go of the past pain and grievances, you deny yourself the message of release that every brother offers you now. See, the real self, the true self of everybody that you meet, that true self is in your life to offer you the message of love, the message of release, the message of freedom. So you ask yourself, why is that not happening? It's not happening because when you're looking at people, you're thinking of them in terms of any kind of fear, pain, or learnings from the world that you got in the past. And when you look at people in terms of what you went through in the past, then you actually give yourself messages from your past. And that keeps you from seeing and experiencing the message of release that everyone offers you now. You want the message of release that everyone offers you now. So how do you do this? How do you change your mind? How do you transform? The way that you transform is to do the Course in Miracles workbook lessons. You must do the Course in Miracles workbook lessons. If you are a sincere Course in Miracles student, let go of the excuses. The excuses have to go. You must do the Course in Miracles workbook lessons. It is the Course in Miracles workbook lessons that make the Course in Miracles practical. It is what takes the thought system of the Course in Miracles from something theoretical to something practical. And after teaching the Course in Miracles for 38 years, I'm telling you, the thing that I noticed the most is that Course in Miracles students do not apply the workbook lessons. They may read them, They may go through them, but the temptation of the ego is to keep you from actually applying the workbook lessons. The Course in Miracles consists of almost like 3 books in one. There's the text, that is the whole thought system, the theoretical framework of the Course. There's the workbook that brings the Course into your day-to-day practical reality. And then there's the teacher's manual that's basically a clarification of terms. And so I want to encourage you to get rid of the excuses. And if you've started the workbook and you stopped the workbook, start where you left off. I would advise you not to start over. Start where you left off and keep going every day. You can stay on one lesson more than a day, but don't do more than one lesson a day. I advise you to do a different lesson every day moving forward. If you don't understand a lesson or you think you didn't do it perfectly, no one does these lessons perfectly that I've ever met. So don't beat yourself up about it. Just keep moving forward. Do the Course in Miracles workbook lessons. The key to actually having the happiness and the miracles that the Course in Miracles promises is through the practical application of the workbook lessons. It says at the beginning of the workbook lessons, you need not believe the ideas, you need not accept the ideas, you need not even welcome the ideas. Some of the ideas you're going to actively resist. Some of the ideas you will find hard to believe. Some of the ideas you will find or may find quite startling. You are not asked to judge and analyze the ideas at all. It is the use of the ideas that will give the ideas meaning to you. It says in the workbook, it is the use of the ideas, not the analyzation of the ideas. When you find yourself beginning to analyze, say, oh, no. I shouldn't be analyzing the Course. I should be reading the Course. I shouldn't be analyzing the Course. I should be remembering what the Course is saying. The key to the success with the Course in Miracles is remembering what it's saying. Like when it says, don't interpret your present in past terms. Stop interpreting right now in terms of any pain or suffering that you went through in the past. Just remember the loving thoughts from the past. If not, you're going to project them in the future and re-experience it. So the way that you stop your pattern is to use right now to give you new interpretations. And you don't have to make up those new interpretations. Those new interpretations are in the Course in Miracles book itself. Those new interpretations are in the text. Those new interpretations are in the workbook. Those new interpretations are in the teacher's manual. Don't let your ego get you hung up on the language of the Course. Get over it. Get over it. It's written in Christian terminology. Get over it. Okay? There's a reason for that. And as you study it more, you'll understand the genius of why it was channeled in Christian terminology. You don't realize it right now, but there's a powerful that's on purpose. And all of the resistance that any of you feel to that, there's a reason for that. But the Course in Miracles, even though it's using Christian terminology, it is talking about universal spiritual themes. The Course in Miracles has its own definitions for all of those Christian terms that it's using. And basically, it's only talking about the love and the fear, going from the fear part of your being and mind to the love part of your being and mind. All right, I'm going to give a quick recap. And this was an intense evening that was very powerful. I needed to hear this. If you would like to make a financial expression of appreciation, as I am a full-time teacher, this is my function in the world. I would really appreciate that if you find value and spirit leads you to do it. If you'd like to make a financial expression of appreciation, go to my website, earlpurdy.com. That's Purdy, www.earlpurdy.com. Also, on July 21st, 2018, this upcoming Saturday, I am doing a hardcore Course in Miracles workshop, especially for dedicated committed Course in Miracles students who would like to take advantage of my 40 years almost of teaching the course, and it's book intensive. It's really going to be intense and deep and enlightening. If you want to know more about it, go to my website, go to my events page on my website, earlpurdy.com, and it explains in detail what the workshop is going to be about. Or you can email me at earlpurdy@earlpurdy.com. My email is my name, earlpurdy@earlpurdy.com. Or just go to my website and go to the event page, and it will explain everything you want to know about the hardcore Course in Miracles workshop. And it's going to be online as well as in person. So even if you're out of town, you can attend. And I'm available for clarity sessions, personal one-on-one counseling sessions. And so if you have issues that you're ready to get out of the way, you've had enough, you're ready for the joy and the abundance and that you want, then, and the love, then have a session with me. I'll show you how you can apply all of this in a very practical way to have a miracle in your life. It's called a clarity session. If you go to my website, earlpurdy.com, it explains it. So good to be with you. It's so powerful. The next Facebook Live that I'm doing is on Sunday at 1:00 p.m. I do one every Sunday, Mountain Time. Tuesday nights, I do a Facebook Live every Tuesday on some material called The Way of Mastery at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. And of course, we got our hardcore Course in Miracles on Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. You don't have to be a member of Facebook to watch. Just go to www.facebook.com/Earl Purdy Live. And also, my videos are available on YouTube also. So, let's do one more quick review. This is a course of love. This is a course about you. Let go of any kind of resistance to love. Love is real. Your ego is trying to teach you that fear is real, but love isn't real. That's your ego. Your ego can only survive if it can keep you feeling guilty and afraid and in conflict. So your ego tries to get you to think about the past and everything that's ever happened to you in the past that's upset you or hurt you in any way. Because in order for your fear, in order for your ego to keep going, it has to put an emphasis on guilt. So in order to continue, you have to continue your guilt. If you want to end your ego, which is your fear, if you want to undo the ego, which is fear, then you undo it by not doing anything that makes you feel guilty. Guilt is a request for punishment according to the Course. So any relationship, any situation, any circumstance that you're using to make yourself feel guilty, stop it. Stop it. Because guilt is a request for punishment, and it is guilt that keeps your ego going. That's why innocence, and your innocence, is the foundation of the Course in Miracles. Is that you are innocent, is that you're innocent, is that you're innocent. And then we also heard tonight that your ego is always trying to project your future, project your past whenever you had any kind of guilt into your future. That your ego is trying to get you to interpret everything in your life in terms of what you went through in the past so you can project it in the future. Stop thinking about what you think of as the pains and sufferings that you went through in the past right now. Stop thinking about it right now. Because if you use right now to focus on everything that makes you unhappy from the past, it projects it into the future. And then you experience it again. That's a trick. So don't interpret, don't use your now present moment to interpret your present in terms of the past. Use the new teachings that you are learning right now. Use the new things that you're learning right now to interpret everything that you're going through. And when you meet new people, when you go into new situations, don't think of those situations in terms of what you went through in the past. Because if you are in a new situation, if you meet a new person and you think of that new person in terms of what you went through with another person in the past or another situation in the past, then you're not really seeing that new situation the way it really is. That new situation is just that. It's a new situation, which means it doesn't have to give you any painful experiences that you might have gone through in a similar situation. If you meet somebody and you react to that person as if they were someone that you met in the past, that maybe you gave yourself pain through, then you will not see who that person is right now, because you are dealing with them as if they were somebody else, and that will keep you from knowing that person as they are right now, which is a person that God has sent into your life that could possibly be a person that completely frees you and releases you from any type of guilt or fear. This person or situation could be a gift from God that could give you the greatest peace and joy that you could ever experience. But if you're thinking of that person in terms of what you went through with another person, you will not be able to see who that person is right now and the gifts that they could give you right now. And if you think of a person that you meet in terms of the pain and suffering you went through another person, then you will project that energy on that person, and it will look like you are receiving a message from that person that reflects what you went through in the past. And then you won't see the message from God, the message of love that person could have given you right now. Mighty companion, I love you. I appreciate you. Take a breath. This was deep tonight. We went through it, even though the ego tried to throw a few hiccups up for us. Thank you for hanging in there with me. That, like I said, you might want to consider doing that workshop this Saturday, July 21st. I love you. I appreciate you, and I will see you next time.